Hello guys, this is Trinity Storm here and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to do 12th and final part of Naruto the Evolution Bloodline. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to follow me on my other social media handles. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Jiraiya and Naruto explored Tanzakugai in search of the Sennin's teammate. Jiraiya had tried to persuade Naruto to speak again, but the Jinchuriki was not in the mood. Jiraiya couldn't really blame him after discovering the reason. Finally, in Tanzakugai, Naruto and Jiraiya remained at the hotel while a small army of Kage Bushin scoured the area for clues. Jiraiya had tried to describe Tsunade as much as he could, but with his insistence on Tsunade's impressive bust, Naruto had to smack him several times to get him to pay attention. After Naruto's clones began to disperse, Naruto and Jiraiya left their room to investigate any people the clones had discovered. Tsunade sipped her sake calmly, ignoring Shizun's objections to drinking. A shadow fell over her, and an all-too-familiar voice made her almost spit her drink. "Can we sit her, please? Suheim?" When she looked up, she saw the super pervert Jiraiya and a blonde Gaki dressed similarly to the Yondaime, but much darker. Tsunade replied with a shrug. "You can do whatever you want. You'd do it regardless." Jiraiya took a seat and ordered a few more bottles of sake. "Suheim, don't be so cold." Tsunade humped as she drained her cup. "So, what brings you here, pervert?" Jiraiya began making small talk with Tsunade, while Naruto became increasingly irritated by her actions. It was one thing to mock Jiraiya, as Naruto frequently did, and quite another to try to bring down everyone around her. She not only insulted Jiraiya more than necessary, but she also had the audacity to insult the Hokage. Naruto abruptly rose to his feet. "Let us proceed, Arrow Sannin. Tsunade is not like that. That's just an old bitter coward who can't face life. Let's just go tell the old man about our failure." And to think he believed in her. Naruto shook his head mockingly. That, of course, did not sit well with Tsunade. "What's the matter, Gaki? I can do whatever I want." "You remain silent. You are unworthy of speaking to anyone about anything." Tsunade twitched. "What exactly did you say?" Naruto glared at her with such venom that she was taken aback. "You've got the audacity to bring in the Hokage. Your teacher. The person who believed in you the most when everyone else had given up on you. You have the audacity to mock your own family and the causes for which they died. So don't you dare to talk to me, you whiny old bitch. You do not have the authority to do so. You have now insulted not only the one person who has always believed in me, but also the very ideal, the very seat of the Hokage. So shut up and go die in the gutter. You can see how much I care. And, aside from Jiraiya, who still loves you, I'm sure no one else would." Tsunade was taken aback as she attempted to respond. She just harumphed because she couldn't think of anything. "What do you know about life, Gaki?" Naruto laughed. "Clearly more than you. Arrow Sannin, come on. She isn't even worthy of a shallow grave. Much less someone's, or even anyone's, love." Tsunade jumped up, the sake controlling her already volatile emotions. "Well, let's take it outside, Buster." Naruto laughed. "So, when your mind can't think of anything, you resort to fists, believing that might makes right. Your forefathers must be rolling in their graves with embarrassment. But everything is fine. I'll have fun with you. Even if only for a short time." Tsunade practically stomped her way outside. She simply lifted her hand, one finger extended, once she was out. Naruto's eyes blinked. "A minute? Is there a time limit until you pass out from the sake?" Tsunade grinned. "No. Only one finger. That's all I need from you." Naruto shook his head and sighed. Jiraiya approached her. "Tsunade, you might want to back out of that. Gaki is a tough nut." Tsunade simply laughed in response. Perhaps to you, pervert. But for me, one finger would suffice. Even though it vanished quickly, Naruto and Shizune noticed the hurt look on his face. Shizune began to count down. Naruto vanished as soon as she reached 0. Tsunade widened her eyes as she turned to look behind her. Tsunade's arm barely stopped Naruto's kick, but before she could throw him away, a fist appeared from below as the kick disengaged. Tsunade's slowed and drunken reflexes didn't have time to warn her, and the fist connected. Wham! Tsunade's eyes widened as she was launched upwards by the uppercut. She felt several bones creak, and it was only the instinctive use of chakra that kept her jaw from shattering. Tsunade didn't have time to recover from the force of the punch before Naruto appeared over her and nailed her with a devastating heel drop. Tsunade's landing created a crater. She sat up painfully, her wounds already healing because she didn't need hand seals to heal such minor injuries. Okay, Gaki, that's it. You irritated me. This is something I'm going to take seriously from now on. Tsunade expected Naruto to back down from her promise and her killing intent. This is why she was taken aback when Naruto smirked and nodded to Jiraiya. Jiraiya went through several hand seals and unleashed a burst of chakra before anyone could wonder. Tsunade glared at him and yelled, "What have you done, you pervert?" Naruto simply laughed. "Oh, nothing special, just a genjutsu that covered the area around us. You are about to witness one of Konoha's top S-ranked secrets." Me. Tsunade returned his stare and took a step back, filled with fear, disgust, and scientific awe. Naruto's form was changing right in front of her eyes. He developed claws and changed the shape of his feet. His eyes became bloodshot and slitted. Of course, in Shizune's and her own minds, she said the same thing. What on earth is that? Naruto laughed, a deep, dark, almost mournful laugh. The cost of power. Tsunade, I am no longer human. I haven't been since I was 8 years old. You can either thank or blame your hometown for this. What? Tsunade, do you even know who I am? Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto here, son of the Yondaime Hokage and Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Yoko. Also, as you can see, I am no longer human. That privilege was taken away from me on the day I was born, and I was barred from it when Konoha's fools tortured me. What are you on about? My mother died at birth because you weren't there, and my father gave up his very soul to seal the Kyuubi in me in a desperate attempt to save the village. Sannin did his best, but he's getting old and tired. As a result, Konoha's civilians and many shinobi mistook me for Kyuubi himself. As a result, they attempted to vent their rage and pain on me. I was tortured and beaten for 8 years. It took 8 years for the seal to finally break and I became this. Naruto waved his arms around before continuing, enjoying Tsunade's shocked expression. So, are we going to do it, or will you back out again, Tsunade? Orochimaru, on the other hand, forced me to go all out against him both times. Itachi was pushed to the side. Kisame is also present. Tsunade, how about you? With a shocked expression on her face, Tsunade took a step back as Naruto approached. He finally spoke when he was close enough. You cannot defeat me unless you have the desire to protect. Your heart is filled with dread. Your mind is filled with uncertainty. You cannot hope to defeat me, or anyone else, until you regain your own will. This fight has no meaning. Thank you. Naruto then reverted to his original form and walked away. Jiraiya only stayed long enough to drop the genjutsu and warn them not to reveal Naruto's powers before leaving. Tsunade sat up slowly and looked at Shizune. Her thoughts were centered on a single question: am I really that pathetic? Tsunade quickly dressed and left the next day to spy on Naruto. She had to discover the truth. She peered into Jiraiya's room and observed the Chunin leave to travel outside of town. He then went to an empty plot of land that was densely forested. After a cross-shaped hand seal, the area was overrun with Naruto clones. They were spread out in seconds, each practicing his own. Some were pushing the limits of tree climbing, others were mastering water walking with new challenges, and the rest were practicing taijutsu, a very animalistic form that demanded a lot of agility, speed, and flexibility. Naruto himself had just finished the Rasengan. Tsunade gathered the courage to speak to him after watching him practice for more than an hour. She made enough noise as she approached to avoid startling the boy. After all, even though she's a Sannin, a lucky shot would suffice. You appear to be working hard, Gaki. Yes, a classic greeting from the alcoholic doctor. Naruto shrugged, letting the chakra in his hand disperse. I don't have much of a choice in the matter. I have no choice with a swarm of S-ranked maniacs pursuing Q and me. Besides, I have to keep them safe. Tsunade sat on a rock, observing the clones in action. You don't have a choice in the world. If you surround yourself with S-rankers, you're not going to live long. You might as well make the most of your time. Naruto sighed in disappointment. I know. That I am aware of. I could barely push Itachi back, and I had the upper hand. They'll be better prepared next time, and I might not have Zabuza as backup. Maybe Hinata will be drawn into it. That is why I am working so hard. I need to strengthen myself. They will not even consider pursuing us if we are strong enough. Then I can enjoy the life I still have. Tsunade huffed loudly as she gazed up at the morning sky. So that's why you're attempting to perfect that technique, huh? However, I would recommend drinking sake. It's less trouble, it feels better, and it doesn't really matter. On the contrary. Even if I failed. If I failed without giving it my all, I wouldn't be able to sleep. That is why I must do this. I need to learn how to use the Rasengan. I need to finish the technique. I need to become as strong as I possibly can. So that, even if I die, I can do so with diligence and the knowledge that there was nothing else that could be done. There was nothing else that could be done. How many times had the slug Sannin considered that? What else could she possibly have done? What difference could she have made if she had tried something different? Was she capable of saving Dan's life? Nawaki's? What happened to her old comrades? If only she had. But she couldn't even think about it. She needed sake to drown the pain, to make it go away. Sake and gambling to forget the pain, fear, and blood. Tsunade shivered and shuddered even in the warm morning sun. She felt a fabric cover her shoulders in seconds. She realized it was a trench coat after being shaken from her thoughts. Naruto wore a trench coat. What are you doing, Gaki? Naruto simply shrugged as he attempted to focus his chakra on his hand once more. You shuddered. Shivering indicates that you are cold. Feeling cold indicates that you require clothing to keep warm. I don't feel cold any longer. So I won't need the trench coat. When he saw Tsunade's surprised expression, he gave a fake smile. Well, it's not like I don't have company. Tsunade could feel Naruto's warmth in the cloth. Even in such dire circumstances, that damn Gaki was infuriatingly empathic. As if he owed her anything, as if she were valuable. She was about to say something when she heard another balloon pop on Naruto's hand. Naruto simply mumbled something inaudible and chose another. HMPH, if you're going to be like that, why not make it interesting? That piqued Naruto's interest. You appear to have some time before completing the Rasengan. So, let's place a wager. You have 1 week to complete it. If you succeed, I will admit that you are correct, and I will even give you this amulet as proof. Tsunade showed the pendant to the genin, whose eyes squinted before widening with surprise. However, if you fail, you'll give me all your money and give up your dream of becoming a ninja. She smiled smugly at the other blonde. I see what you mean. That's the way it is. Okay, Tsunade, I'll take that wager. Just one thing. If and when I win, you'll at least consider becoming Hokage. He's tired, old man. He's had to go through a lot, both mentally and physically. He's not the same person he used to be. So, if not for me, consider it for the one person who still believed you were the fiery slug Sannin Tsunade, master of the healing arts, and pretty much the only person who could keep Arrow Sannin in check. Naruto grinned at the end, dispelling the gloom that had descended on the pair. Tsunade laughed slightly at the last declaration. Okay, Gaki. I might actually come to stand you. Sorry, but a jug of sake is calling my name. Naruto laughed and waved goodbye before returning his attention to Rasengan training. Jiraiya would treat Naruto to ramen before assisting him with his training that day. It had been more than a week since Naruto had gone in search of Tsunade, and the gang was still practicing as hard as ever. But things were different that day. Instead of waking up in their secret headquarters, working out until lunchtime, and then fighting it out in one of the training grounds, favorite among them being number 44, the team gathered around the headquarters. Everyone gathered around Zabuza, Anko, and Kurenai, the three most experienced shinobi. Anko took a step forward, indicating that she was the leader. Okay, everyone, I believe it is time to bring in more people. Shino is in the spotlight. Anko came to a halt, allowing the genin to take his place in front of the group. You suggested Shikamaru be initiated and join our group about a week ago. We've been watching him and his team since then, giving them time to adapt and train after they got a rude awakening. Despite Kiba, Lee and Tenten's best efforts following the invasion, Team 10 hasn't changed much. So there's a problem. If Shikamaru isn't motivated soon enough, there's no point in approaching him because nothing will motivate him to train more. This is where you come into play. Despite your impressive skill set, you are still the team's weakest combatant. Of course, as you are well aware, this means nothing because your intellect more than compensates. As you can imagine, Team 10 must be put to the test. There's no point in trying to help them if all three of them can't beat you in a spar. Shino, your mission is to go challenge and test Team 10's abilities. We all know how well you read people and their intentions. We also know that you are capable of selecting someone for membership in this group. We know for a fact that Team 10 is off missions today and will be practicing teamwork at Training Ground 10. You know what your task is. Go test them and see if they should join now or later. Shino nodded and walked away, but not before calling out to Haku, "Itekamasu, I'll be off," usually used in families. Anko began speaking once more. As we all know, Naruto's departure to bring Senju Tsunade back to the village to serve as Godem means we'll have our hands full. We need to educate her on the facts from our point of view. We need to get as much dirt on these council bastards as possible in order to discredit them. The councils are bound to make a mistake due to the chaos caused by the invasion and Sandame's strategic Sama's retreats when necessary. We must track them down and expose them. Meanwhile, we must focus on projecting the proper image to civilians. While most see us as beneficial members of the Konoha shinobi forces, a few are hesitant to let go of their hatred and prejudices. To cut a long story short, we need to find ways to make our group more secretive while remaining less threatening, or at the very least alleviate the fears before they spread. We've all seen how a single rumor can completely derail even the best laid plans. Kurenai took a step forward as Anko took a step back. Kiba, Haku, and Hinata, you three will be held accountable for any dirt we find on the council and the group's enemies. Hinata's Byakugan, Haku's mirror, and Kiba's stealth should all be extremely useful. At the same time, Hinata, you must investigate and uncover all of the loopholes that the council may choose to exploit in order to escape or discredit us. As a Hyuga, your clan must have a large collection of laws and relevant scrolls. We need a copy, if not the original, so we can study them and prepare. Kiba, you must discover your clan's loyalties. Are they devoted to the Hokage or to Konoha? The ideals or benefits of the village given your clan's ferocity and passion, they could be the best of allies or the worst of enemies, so we need to learn more about them as soon as possible. By the way, good job spreading rumors. Ino is doing an excellent job of keeping us hidden. Haku, since you frequently visit hospitals and check on retired shinobi, do what you can to help them as well. If possible, have them write down any scroll-related tips they have and bring them here. The occasional technique or piece of information would also be appreciated. Naruto could pay them for this service if they so desire. Kurenai took a step back, allowing Zabuza to take the lead this time. Tenten and Lee, as you are aware, we have lost a significant number of shinobi during the invasion. Though the village has been mostly repaired, the number of high-ranking missions we are taking has been reduced. This, in turn, reduces our financial resources, which we must address. From now on, you two, Shino, and I will be attached to various teams and assist them in dangerous missions that will almost certainly involve fighting. Maintain your vigilance, sharpen your blades, and keep your wits about you. For the time being, we'll concentrate on teamwork before embarking on more difficult missions. Now, keep in mind that while some of these missions will pay well, we will have to split the majority of the money with the rest of the group who isn't taking missions right now. Finally, we'll need to approach the teams to which we'll be assigned and see what they have to offer. Buckle up, kids, and prepare for hell on earth. After saying his piece, Zabuza stepped back, allowing Anko to give the team the signal to disperse and await Shino's return. Shino was approaching the Genin Team 10 from a long distance away. Choji was eating his chips, Shikamaru was staring at the clouds, and Ino was reading a magazine. Shino exhaled a sigh. They had tried to motivate the team not long ago, but they simply seemed incapable of working any longer than absolutely necessary. Shino tensed his muscles, quietly drew his dual kama, and leapt from the shadows to attack the three unprepared genin, as Kurenai had gotten Asuma to agree to the test. Shikamaru found himself staring at Shino's sunglasses, the reflection of the dual kama next to his neck clearly visible on the reflective surface. When Ino and Choji saw the situation, they turned to help their downed teammate. An action that was immediately halted when they noticed Shino's hands twitch and the blades get too close to Shikamaru's neck for comfort. Ino, as expected, blew up. "Hello, Shino. What are you doing to Shikamaru?" Shino shifted his gaze to the side just enough to catch a glimpse of her. "Obviously, I'm going after him." "Why, you might ask?" "Because that is my intention. I strongly advise you to take me seriously if you do not want your teammate decapitated." Ino was taken aback by the cold, dismissive voice. Shikamaru was able to keep his cool and quickly made a hand seal while Choji was just staring at his attacked friend, not knowing how to. Ninpo. Kageme no Jutsu, ninja technique, shadow binding. Shino felt his body push away from Shikamaru against his will. He didn't fight the movement, instead letting Shikamaru do it before unleashing his insects in a dome around him, using them to eat the chakra of the technique. Shikamaru realized quickly that the insects would follow his chakra back to its source, so he cancelled the jutsu and rolled away. Team 8 formed a triangle with Choji in the center and Ino flanked by Shikamaru. Nodding to his teammates, the chubby shinobi dashed forward, aided by a few kunai from Ino. Shikamaru, on the other hand, stood back, ready to use his shadow techniques in an instant. Shino did not retreat or try to evade the charging Choji, much to Team Asuma's surprise and later fear. Instead, he charged at him from the side, kama open. Shino leapt, surprising Choji, landed on Choji's back, and used him as a springboard to launch himself towards a surprised Shikamaru. Ino used shuriken to defend her teammate, but Shino's insect allies warned him of the attacks, and he used his kama to defend himself on air. He had to quickly dodge out of the way of Shikamaru's advancing shadow after landing in front of his target. Shikamaru grinned triumphantly, but it was quickly wiped out as Shino outmaneuvered the shadow's sticky nature before slashing at the shadow user with his kama, leaving a few bleeding wounds. He had to leap away almost immediately as Choji's barreling form approached in an attempt to squash him with his ninpo, Baika no Jutsu, ninja art, multi-size technique. Shino landed behind a surprised Ino, who had barely had time to roll away from the worst of the attacks. As she rolled away, she attempted to throw more shuriken, but Shino had anticipated this and joined his kama at the bottom, spinning the now staff-like weapon in front of him and deflecting the projectiles. Before the surprised team could re-attack Shino, he threw his weapon at the still prone Ino. The kunoichi shrieked in terror before fleeing. Shikamaru's shadow had taken over for Ino, pulling her out of harm's way, as Shino noticed. The calm didn't last long, however, as the twirling weapon abruptly changed direction, heading for Choji, who was about to charge again. The weapon struck him and dispelled his multi-size technique, leaving him with a nasty gash on his chest. Shikamaru looked perplexed as Ino shrieked at the blood. The cut wasn't deep or dangerous, but it looked bad and forced Choji to withdraw from the fight due to potential blood loss. Shino flexed his arm, and the weapon was returned to its owner's hands. The mantis blades had split up again in an instant, and Shino was sprinting towards the terrified pair of genin. Shino pounced on her and dizzyingly struck her with the grip of his right weapon on the head before Ino could react. He spun around and struck her in the side of the head with his left weapon, causing her to black out for the rest of the fight. Shikamaru drew a kunai to defend himself, but despite his intellect and strategic genius, he simply lacked the resources to defend against Shino. The kama user dodged, parried, and weaved through his attacks, despite Shikamaru's best efforts to avoid the Nara Air's shadow technique. Shikamaru eventually discovered a pair of blades around his neck, while insects had already swarmed over his two teammates and were attempting to attack him as well. Shino exhaled a sigh. It might have been a good workout for him, but given the purpose of the group, they needed to get much stronger. He took a few steps back after removing his blades from Shikamaru's neck and had his insect allies carry Choji and Ino to Shikamaru. As if on cue, Ino began to awaken, despite the fact that Shino hadn't even hit her hard enough to knock her out of the fight for a longer period of time. As the Kakaichu retreated back to their host, Team Asuma noticed a few large, red, ant-like insects clinging to Choji's wound with their larger pincers. Even the bleeding seemed to have stopped. Shino sighed as he looked at the team in front of him. The insects on Akamichi-san will heal the wound. Their saliva contains enzymes that cause blood to clot as well as antibacterial properties. Their pincers will keep him from aggravating the wound. Because this was a test, there was no reason to endanger a shinobi's life. However, you have failed the purpose of this test. While you demonstrated admirable teamwork, your tactics are rigid and unyielding. While you are aware of each other's strength, this is simply due to the fact that you have made no progress in all this time. To be honest, I'm disappointed. It is best if you are aware of this before proceeding further down this road. Why? Because if you continue to stunt your growth in this manner, you will undoubtedly die before your time. Shikamaru scowled at Shino's words before rising. Shino doesn't interest me at all. I'm only concerned with two people, my teammates over here. Take your vexing opinions and shove them. Of course, Ino and Choji exclaimed in surprise. Shino simply smirked, spun on his heel, and walked away. Shikamaru blinked, huffed something about troublesome people, and trailed behind. It didn't sit well with Ino, who was quick to express her displeasure. Shika, please. What are your plans? Shikamaru returned her and Choji's sad smile. I'm heading to a troubled location with troubled people. Take care of yourselves, you two. Shikamaru and Shino disappeared into the woods. Shino led Shikamaru to a small hill with several large rocks a few minutes later. He pulsed his chakra through a large boulder, and it vanished in a puff of smoke. Shikamaru recognized his sensei as a large, muscular man with a massive zanbatu once the pair descended. Shikamaru's actions were reconsidered as a result of the sadistic smirk. However, One final glance at Shino convinced him of his decision. A week had passed since the bet was made in Tanzaku-gai. Naruto had spent the entire time attempting to learn the Rasengan. He knew if he had used the Cage Bunshin trick, he could have finished it in a matter of days. He did, however, respect both his father and Jiraiya's difficulties. Instead, he chose to master it the old-fashioned way, with sheer guts and dedication to a single task until it was completed. It was the final day, and Naruto had only gone to sleep because Jiraiya had ordered him to do so in order to avoid burning out his chakra system. It wasn't fear of paralyzing Naruto, but logic, as it would take time for Naruto and force him to stay in recovery for far too long. Naruto got up early as usual that morning. He quickly changed his clothes and prepared for some last-minute practice. He huffed as he passed by the toad Sannin's empty bed. Last night, the pervert most likely chased tail. However, he had stated that he had contacts in this village, so he could have gone to them instead. It didn't matter to the blonde genin, so he prepared to leave. He heard frantic knocking as he approached the door. He quickly opened it and found Shizune, Tsunade's old companion and friend, holding the pet pig Tauntaun. The poor pig was squealing, clearly trying to alert Naruto to an emergency. Of course, Naruto had no idea how to communicate with such beings, so he grabbed Shizune's arm, dragged the panting girl inside, and made her sit on a chair. "So, Shizune-san, what's the fire?" inquired the blonde. Before responding, the girl took a few moments to catch her breath and calm her racing mind. "Tsunade-sama has vanished." Naruto simply raised an eyebrow. "So, please excuse my ignorance, but doesn't she just get up and leave whenever she wants?" "At least, that's what I heard. I'm not sure how things work, so it must be serious." "Why did you come here, of all places, is the question." Shizune gulped and looked ashamed of what she was about to reveal. "Tsunade-sama is on her way to Orochimaru. He made her an offer a week ago, and she appears to have accepted." A window flew open, and a certain toad summoner collapsed inside, huffing and puffing as if he had just run a mile. Shizune is correct. She departed for Orochimaru. Jiraiya grunted as he attempted to stand. She also appears to have spiked my sake the night before. Despite everything I've done, I'm still not even at 15%, and Naruto dashed over to the unconscious Sannin and assisted him to his bed. He looked at Shizune. "Okay, let's get our priorities straight. Shizune, tell me where the meeting will be held and then do everything you can to heal Ero Sennin. I won't be able to defeat hubby Teme on my own if he's present. I can, however, keep him at bay long enough for you to be useful. Now, speak up. We don't have much time." Shizune was forced to spill everything by Naruto's commanding tone, including the deal offered to Tsunade and the assistant who was with Orochimaru the last time. Naruto began mutating in front of Shizune's surprised eyes as he ran towards the open window. Naruto jumped out the window with a burst of chakra and a powerful leap, before wings spread from his back, engulfed protectively by his trenchcoat, before speeding away. Shizune looked around for a split second before her medic training kicked in and she began treating Jiraiya almost mechanically. For his part, the pervert just laughed at her. "Shizune, don't be concerned. The Gaki is too tough to perish. Now, let's get this poison out of my system so we can help them." Shizune responded with a nod and redoubled her efforts. Naruto flew above the village. As he flew, he told his eyes to go into long-range mode, which he called Washi-Gon, Eagle Eye, back when he was much younger. The improved eyesight he had gained from the mighty bird of prey allowed him to see the world in a new light. He used the wind currents to speed up and quickly made his way, focusing his sight on the direction Shizune said the meeting would take place. Tsunade stood in front of Orochimaru and his lackey, a capable medic nin. The six-snake user was taking his time with his mind games, attempting to make her feel inferior while extolling her medic abilities. The sound of a heavy item falling at high velocity interrupted Tsunade's placement of her hands on the snake summoner's own destroyed ones. As something slammed into the ground between them, creating shockwaves and a dust cloud, both legendary shinobi had just enough time to leap away. As the dust cloud was blown away, a menacing form stood within it. "Gaki? What exactly are you doing here?" Tsunade, who was taken aback, inquired. Meanwhile, Orochimaru licked his lips, unsure whether to be pleased to see Naruto again or annoyed by the interruption. Kabuto, on the other hand, made that decision for him. "Well, Naruto-kun, I didn't expect you to arrive so soon." Naruto simply grunted and turned to face Tsunade. "Tsunade, what the hell were you thinking? Did you really agree to follow the plans of a maniac who has already disrespected your forefathers? Did you really believe that a human, albeit a powerful one, could mess with life and death? Do you really want to be associated with a thug who enslaved your grandfather and granduncle's souls?" Tsunade took a step back from the intensity of the words. Orochimaru grumbled and clicked his tongue. "While you are strong, Naruto-kun, you are in way over your head. The forces at work here are incomprehensible to you. You should leave right now and..." Naruto growled at him in such a hostile manner that Orochimaru had to consciously resist the urge to flee. "Hubby Teme, you're done talking. Didn't I warn you about trying to resurrect the Shodai and Nidaime? A body without a soul cannot live, but a soul without a heart cannot live. You may have taken their souls, but not their hearts, not when you enslaved them and used them as mere marionettes to destroy the very home and people they once fought to protect. After all, you were the one who mauled hubby Teme last time I checked. You know that Kabuto here shouldn't make much of a difference against me." Meanwhile, as Tsunade heard Naruto's words, a rage unseen in a long time sparked within the legendary medic. Orochimaru quickly realized this and sought to end the fight before it began. After all, not even Tsunade was safe from Tsunade's legendary rage. "Enough, Kabuto. You handle Naruto-kun while I handle Tsunade. After all, there are other options for restoring my arms." Kabuto nodded to his master and hopped to the side, giving Naruto and Tsunade a clear shot. Naruto simply laughed. "Tsunade, it appears that trouble follows us from our broken pasts. Unfortunately, this is not the first time, and we can deal with all of this nonsense, right? Take care of hubby Teme over there, and I'll take care of Kabuto. Oh, and it was great to meet the real Tsunade. Naruto chuckled as he jumped away from Tsunade to avoid the fight between her and Orochimaru. Kabuto simply smirked arrogantly at Naruto. "You know you can't beat me. Naruto-kun. I've become as powerful as the legendary Hatake Kakashi thanks to Orochimaru's assistance. Samas, no matter how gifted you are, an untrained genin like you cannot defeat me. Your body, on the other hand, will make an excellent test subject for my research. After all, you've revealed a slew of potent abilities. Very intriguing indeed." Without further ado, Kabuto drew one of his battle-ready scalpels and charged Naruto. He expected the blonde to at least dodge the attack, so he was surprised when he didn't even react to it. He quickly realized why when the scalpel made contact with Naruto's skin but failed to pierce it significantly. Naruto's right hand rose up to meet Kabuto's face before he could recover from his surprise. Imagine the surprise on the auto-faced nin's when he saw long claws coming for his face. He was, however, skilled enough to avoid the brunt of that attack by leaning back and flipping away. Naruto squinted as he watched the wounds heal, much to Kabuto's delight. The medic's smirk, nin's however, was quickly erased by Naruto's declaration. "We're talking now. Finally, someone who doesn't die from a flesh wound. Make sure, Kabuto-chan, that you don't die too quickly. I haven't let myself go in a long time." Naruto's apparent joy caused Kabuto to blink. But he had to back off quickly to avoid the claws that came for his face. Naruto appeared ecstatic during the fight. Excellent reflexes as well. Kami must adore me to send me this present. Kabuto tried to come up with a witty response, but Naruto's randomness, bloodlust, and sheer giddiness made it impossible. At least in the time it took Naruto to force him to defend himself. Among Naruto's laughter, the medic Nin quickly realized he couldn't compete with the blonde powerhouse. So he resolved to take things seriously for a change. The white-haired medic threw his kunai at Naruto, who didn't even acknowledge them and ran through several hand seals as quickly as he could. His hands were soon covered by a faint green aura, indicating his technique. Kabuto rushed towards Naruto, his confidence restored. Despite his best efforts, Kabuto was unable to hit his target. Kabuto's arms were kept off for a long time due to unreal spinal cord bending, reflexes to the point of precognition, and incredible agility. However, as Naruto backtracked to avoid an attack on his eyes, Kabuto appeared behind him and twice touched his spinal cord before walking away with his back to Naruto. He was expecting a lot of things, but not a laugh. "Where are you going, Kabuto-chan? You didn't think that little love tap would bring me down? Seriously, was it supposed to do anything at all?" In surprise, Kabuto blinked and took a step back. "What? Impossible. I severed your spinal cord. My chakra scalpels should have rendered you unable to move from the waist down." Naruto continued to laugh. "I'm going to scold you, Kabuto-chan." Naruto scolded Kabuto with his finger, as if he were a parent. "My ancestors endowed me with the ability to adapt to any situation. So, do you have any idea who my teammates are? I have to spar with them every now and then. Your cute scalpels pale in comparison to Hinata's Rasengan's touch. Especially after your master's little stunt. I made sure to spend a lot of time practicing with Anko's Yukai. Simple chakra-based attacks like this don't even register on my pain scale. How about I take you seriously now?" Kabuto had barely had time to consider his adversary's words before asking himself, "He wasn't taking me seriously?" Before being punched and kicked repeatedly in various places, he was thrown away in a boneless heap after a simple grapple. Directly into Orochimaru. Tsunade, on the other hand, was having a ball. Orochimaru was desperately trying to avoid her punches because even being grazed by them would trigger the chakra blast contained within, which could prove problematic for the Hobby Sannin. Of course, if he had full power, the situation would not have been nearly as dangerous. However, without any technique that required hand seals, which comprised the majority of his repertoire, he was unable to mount a notable defense or counterattack. Tsunade's experience helped her fight him better, which was a disadvantage. When the snake summoner heard a cracking sound behind him, he was bending in unreal ways to avoid being pulverized. Kabuto's body collided with him before he could turn around or move away, sending him straight into Tsunade's fist. A split second later, the tangled mass of the two nin was flying in the opposite direction. When Naruto saw this, he created a seal-less cage bunshin and had it kick the incoming projectile in the air. Meanwhile, the true Naruto tensed his legs, braced himself for a leap, and winked at Tsunade. When she saw the wink, the slug summoner prepared her chakra and prepared to jump as well. The clone threw Orochimaru and Kabuto into the air like a giant ball. Naruto and Tsunade leapt as well, appearing above their target as soon as they were launched in this manner. Orochimaru barely had time to realize what the shadows on him were before attempting to brace himself for the incoming hit. He wasn't disappointed when he and Kabuto were both hit with two devastating heel drops, sending them careening into the ground and creating a small crater. Naruto touched down next to Tsunade. "That's going to leave a mark, eh, Tsunade-heim?" The legendary doctor chuckled. "Yes, I suppose it will. You know, I think I like you, kid. You're entertaining." Orochimaru stood up, grunting, followed by a relatively unscathed Kabuto. Of course, he had to expend a significant amount of chakra to both shield himself from the hits and repair the damage he had sustained. "Tsunade, you're a jerk. I will not be stopped here, not when I am so close to achieving my goals. Not now, when I'm almost a god. Naruto sighed, shaking his head. You're mistaken, Orochimaru. Take it from a fellow immortal. Ambitions are created so that we do not achieve them. What do you think you'd be doing if you could become immortal and learn all techniques? So, what now? How will you spend the eons until the world ends? Ambitions, the driving force behind everyone's actions. They were never designed to be realized. Tsunade blinked at Naruto, while Orochimaru snarled. How dare that damned brat, a constant reminder of his flaws, speak to him like that? How dare that arrogant child belittle him? And yet, for all his rage, for all his misguided, but still great, intelligence, for all his conviction and dedication to his goal, Orochimaru couldn't deny one simple fact: Naruto was correct. Orochimaru had lost sight of his own path in his zeal to learn every technique and become immortal, turning his goal into his obsession, the only thing that mattered in his mind. Of course, the snake summoner was unable to accept it. He couldn't, no, wouldn't, admit that he had been wrong. He would never admit to it. It is impossible to be mistaken. Then why is it so painful? Why is it so painful? How come it isn't forgotten? That vexing presence, always in the back of his mind, rearing its head, seeking, desperately trying to separate itself from Orochimaru. Some call it the last vestiges of Orochimaru's humanity, while others call it the remnants of the child he once was, and still others simply call him insane. None would be incorrect, but none would be correct. The schism, the divide, the distinction became painful, but only for a split second before the legendary shinobi drowned the upstart voice in wave after wave of zealous hatred and anger. Orochimaru simply narrowed his eyes and stared at the blonde shapeshifter from the outside. He needed to finish the fight quickly before the toad Sannin arrived. While he was confident in his ability to defeat Tsunade and Naruto, the Gamma Sennin would be too much for him, especially without his ninjutsu. Kabuto was powerful, but he was clearly no match for the blonde troublemaker. He gritted his teeth and prepared to finish the fight. Kabuto quickly recognized his master's signal. He drew a combat scalpel from his belt pouch and cut his palm with a fluid motion. The red essence of life oozed from the wound and dripped to the ground. Naruto was perplexed as to why Kabuto would choose to do something so pointless, and he was even more surprised to see Tsunade's reaction. At the sight of blood, the legendary kunoichi and medic had completely frozen. Hemophobia? He speculated. Kabuto flicked his palm towards Tsunade, sending some red droplets towards the slug summoner's face, causing her to retreat even deeper into her own mind. Orochimaru retrieved his legendary sword, Kusanagi, from his stomach and attacked the stunned Tsunade while holding it in his mouth. Naruto rushed in front of her, ready to take the blow, but just as the blade was about to pierce him, a large object collided with the approaching Nin, knocking him out. Jiraiya was quickly revealed to be that object. Orochimaru growled and attacked his former teammate in a rage, hoping to kill him as soon as possible. It was difficult to do, however, because he only had his kenjutsu and a portion of his taijutsu to fall back on. He was extremely fortunate that Jiraiya could barely use his chakra, as the white-haired shinobi could easily have destroyed him if he had full power. Meanwhile, Kabuto, fed up with Tsunade and aware of the danger she could pose if she regained consciousness, reactivated his chakra scalpels and charged her. In his zealous attack, he overlooked one detail: a hand reaching for his own. Naruto quickly realized that Tsunade was completely defenseless, making her protection his top priority. He could only hope that his perverted godfather would survive long enough for him to kill the lackey and provide assistance. Naruto lashed out with his hand and grabbed Kabuto's arm with his own left hand, knowing full well that Tsunade would not survive a chakra scalpel like he could. That's all, Kabuto Teme. You're irritating me. Now, buzz on. Naruto then threw an insanely powerful punch at the enemy medic, causing it to explode from the force. Shizune rushed behind the blonde powerhouse, looking for any wounds she would have to treat. When she saw the blood and realized it was what had caused the legendary kunoichi to freeze, she began wiping it off her face while whispering kind words to calm her down. Naruto's voice called to them, and they both turned to face him. "Tsunade, open your eyes and look good. This is the capability of a future Hokage." The two women noticed Kabuto walking out of the dust cloud caused by his collision with the rock as they looked at Naruto. He seemed to pant a little, but that went away as soon as he took a pill. When he saw Naruto charging him at full speed, Kabuto's self-centered grin vanished. Meanwhile, Tsunade and Shizune blinked at Naruto's speed, almost missing a glowing ball of blue energy resting in his hand. Naruto collided with Kabuto before firmly inserting the orb in his hand into Kabuto's stomach. Rasengan. Spiral Sphere. Tsunade blinked, her mind racing with one thought. He did it, the kid did it. Her joy was quickly dashed when she saw Naruto cough once and collapse to his knees, clutching his chest. She startled her caretaker as she rushed towards the blonde, her eyes widening. Naruto was in discomfort. That jerk Kabuto did something to him, injecting him with something in the last second. It felt like poison coursing through him, but it wasn't just any poison. Whatever it was hurting him. A shadow fell on him, and he felt soft hands grab his shoulders and force him to lie down on the ground. Tsunade's frantic face appeared in Naruto's vision as she tried to figure out what was wrong with the genin who had defended her. Imagine her surprise when she saw Naruto dealing with the poison he had been injected with. Her scans revealed that it was a concoction of viral strains, virulent bacteria, and neurotoxins designed to turn the target's muscles to mush. Worse, the mixture should be affecting the target's chakra system, causing the target to suffer for a long time regardless of how long it went untreated. Naruto's ability to adapt to even that monstrosity of a poison spoke volumes about his strength and resilience. Tsunade was even more taken aback when she saw how Naruto's body worked, a miracle for healers that went above and beyond what a human's limits would be. Naruto struggled to stand because Tsunade and Shizune were both trying to hold him down. They were forced to let him go because Orochimaru, enraged by Jiraiya, summoned the snake boss, Manda. Tsunade and Jiraiya flew by several handseals before calling for help from the toad boss, Gamabunta, and the slug boss, Katsuyu. Naruto quickly grabbed Shizune, who eeped at the contact before leaping away to ensure she was out of harm's way. The three Sannin were facing each other when they noticed a single boy rush around behind Manda until it was too late. Manda was so engrossed in the fight that he didn't realize he'd made a mistake until he tried to go underground to avoid being roasted. However, doing so is difficult when someone is holding your tail. Before the surprised snake boss could object, Naruto and a few of his clones dragged him from underground and began swinging him around over their heads. Gamabunta raised a non-existent eyebrow as he watched his worst enemy spin in circles. Katsuyu's emotions were better expressed through her summoner, as Tsunade appeared to burst out laughing due to Manda's surprised expression. Naruto and his clones grunted as they simultaneously let go of the tail, sending Manda and his unfortunate passengers rolling around the ground painfully. Orochimaru dispelled his summon, grabbed his semi-conscious servant, and fled by melding with the earth, deciding to cut his losses. Tsunade, Shizune, Jiraiya, Naruto, and Taunton were walking back to Tanzakugai after a few moments of regrouping, discussing their fight and what they had learned about Orochimaru from it. Tsunade came to a halt just before the city and looked at Naruto. "Well, brat, I must admit that you surprised me with that Rasengan. So I believe you have won the bet. Shut your eyes." Naruto closed his eyes and felt the pendant settle into position. Tsunade whispered to him a second later, and he felt a pair of lips touch his brow. "Naruto, become a great Hokage." It was a touching moment, but it was ruined because Jiraiya had apparently found some inspiration and was writing furiously on his notepad. Too bad he wouldn't get to finish it as Naruto and Tsunade moved as one, the boy kneeling to Jiraiya's family jewels as Tsunade delivered one of her legendary punches, launching him into the air. Shizune and Taunton both sweat-dropped, thinking to themselves, there's two of them. Tsunade, on the other hand, smirked, put his arm around Naruto's shoulder, and smiled cheerfully. You know, Gaki, I think this is the start of a very fruitful relationship. Ignoring Jiraiya's agonized howl as he vanished into the distance, Naruto returned Tsunade's smile. You know, for a Ba-chan, you're not all that bad. Tsunade retracted her arm and attempted to slug Naruto in less than a second after realizing Naruto had called her an old lady. Naruto, of course, knew that staying there would be harmful to his health, so he ran away laughing. Shizune had to smile. Tsunade hadn't been this happy and relaxed in a long time. As she walked towards the hotel room, she whistled a happy tune, Tsunade's cries of, "Get back here you brat," and, "I'll show you calling me old," echoing in the distance. Yes, coming to that village was a very good thing. That is a very good thing.
That's it for today. If you enjoyed this video, give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.